It's the MD warrior. Boy, I'm built for this. Life threw me battle, but I'm still gonna win.
Welcome back to Muscular Dystrophy Warrior. Just like the last video, in every video, a moment of silence for all the fallen warriors who sadly lost the battle to muscular dystrophy. Sending prayers to all those families who have lost someone with muscular dystrophy. For this video, I thought I would do a review about a movie that I watched 2 days ago. It's called The Fundamentals of Caring. And honestly, it stuck with me. A lot of the movie hit home, because as someone living with muscular dystrophy, seeing a movie where it shows muscular dystrophy, was, great to see a movie that shows muscular dystrophy. Well, get started. I won't spoil the movie, but I do want to talk about why it means so much to me, even though I just watched it, like I said, 2 or 3 days ago, and why I think it's worth watching for everyone in the muscular dystrophy community, especially if you're living with muscular dystrophy, like I said, caring for someone, or even dealing with grief in your own way. At the at its core, this movie is about two people who cross paths during a very specific moment in their lives. One is living with muscular dystrophy Duchenne, the one I have, the type of muscular dystrophy I have. The other is dealing with deep grief. What starts as a caregiving situation turns into something more meaningful through conversation, shared moments, and an unexpected road trip. What I really appreciate about this movie is that it doesn't just focus on one topic, it touches on a lot of real themes. One of them is living with muscular dystrophy, another is grieving, losing someone and trying to figure out how to move forward. And the third is something that really hit home for me, the idea that sometimes people come into your life for a season, sometimes forever, and sometimes just for one road trip. But even those short moments can leave a lasting impact. I can name a lot of people that have come to my life over the years. Most of them have stayed forever. So that's why seeing that movie, reflected on how, as someone living with muscular dystrophy, I have lived, you know, like I said, like crossing paths with so many great people in my life. So it kind of really hit home. So that's why I wanted to share that. One reason I always, a reason I wanted to promote this movie, you know, especially for my muscular dystrophy community, because we are not represented in movies that much. I mean, if we think about it, there's not a lot of movies that reflect, muscular dystrophy until I found this one. And when I talk about living with muscular dystrophy, because it shows something that's not talked about enough, humor. Living with muscular dystrophy isn't easy. There are hard days, frustration moments, and situations that feel overwhelming, but humor helps. Having the ability to laugh even in tough moments can make a big difference. I mentioned this because in the movie, the actor that plays the person with muscular dystrophy has a great sense of humor, always joking around with his caregivers and stuff, you know. So humor sometimes, can make you. I mean, even though he has muscular dystrophy, he has a great sense of humor, you know, that has helped him, and the movie helped him that t- throughout his life, not just having good humor, but having the ability to a good attitude doesn't erase that diagnosis. Obviously, it doesn't, but it can help you cope with it, live life more fully. For me, I'm not really that much of a humor, when it comes to my disability, but I have a good attitude. Like I said, it won't change, the diagnosis, but it can make it, cope better, live life, and not really think about your disability. I mean, it's still there, obviously, but having a good attitude helps a lot. I mean, I'm 26 years old and I have always had a good attitude about my disability. I know, like I said, there are hard days. It's not gonna change the diagnosis. There's some hard days, there's some good days, some bad days, some hard days, some days you want to quit, but I get up every morning, and start my day eating breakfast, doing what every person does. You eat breakfast. If you go to work, you go to work. If you go to school, you go to school. For me, like, I don't work, I don't go to school anymore, but I get up in the morning with a good attitude to record these videos for you guys. And the attitude also matter when it comes to caregiving. We can't forget about the caregivers out there. Shout out to all the caregivers out there. Appreciate what you guys do. Without you guys, I don't know, things would have been a little complicated for people living with a disability like muscular dystrophy. Sometimes finding that right caregiver is hard. Honestly, not all the caregivers are great people, but I feel like most of the caregivers are great people. Not saying everyone, but there's a few good caregivers out there. Shout out to them, you know. Sometimes it doesn't click. Sometimes you'll be like, the person with the disability might be like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with this caregiver. Or the caregiver, we have to talk about both sides. Sometimes the caregiver will be like, I don't like working for this individual because he has a attitude. I'm just trying to help him out or help her out, and she has a bad attitude. So, and sometimes the caregiver is the other way around. The person they're taking care of is like, he or she, it depends. She's like, he or she be like, I don't feel comfortable with this caregiver. She just sits on their phone, doesn't really do anything. So it's both sides. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. Sometimes, like, I thought it was funny, like, in the movie, the person who has muscular dystrophy tells the caregiver, when they're interviewing him, you have to clean, my behind, every day. He does it in a way that's humor. He was just testing him out to see, like, oh, is he gonna be like all the other caregivers? Because supposedly he had his mom was like, they have had other caregivers, but so he tested them, to ask them like uncomfortable question like, oh, you need to help me use the restroom, this and that. So he was just testing him, and he didn't feel uncomfortable, so he was like hire him like this. He just turned his chair on and went to his room. He's like hire him because he saw he wasn't uncomfortable with the job. He was just testing him. In reality, some caregivers won't be comfortable with, taking you to the restroom, changing you or whatever they need to do. So that's why it's hard. But sometimes a caregiver who is in your family can become a great friend. There's probably a lot of caregivers out there that feel like family. If you have a caregiver that's more than a caregiver who is in your family and becomes a great friend, becomes family, cherish them because, like I said, it's hard to find people like that. That what the movie shows so beautifully. Even though one person's living with muscular dystrophy, like I say, and the other is dealing with grief, they're both carrying something heavy. Living with a disability is not easy. Grieving is not easy. Life is not easy. So they're both trying to heal in their own way. Obviously heal with the other person. You know, he's not healing from his disability, because in the movie he's like, wants to do other things. He wants to go out, travel, and stuff like that. So he's trying to, you know, heal from that, from just being home and going to the park every once a week. He's trying to do other stuff, but with muscular dystrophy, hard. And through shared struggle, they form a bond that goes beyond just a job or a diagnosis. It becomes a real friendship. That's why I wanted to share this movie with my muscular dystrophy community, not just because it includes muscular dystrophy, but because it shows humanity, connection, and growth. It shows that two people dealing with complete different challenge can still understand each other, support each other, and help each other move forward. If you haven't seen the fundamentals of caring, I highly recommend it. And if you have seen it, I'd love to know what it meant to you. And for those that haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. So anybody that has Netflix, I suggest you guys check it out. And thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button, and also share if you want other people in the muscular dystrophy community to watch this movie. And I'll end the video like always. MD Warrior out. Until next time.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Started from the struggle, now we speaking on it real. Turn the pain into power, now the whole world filled. Every bit, every word, man, I'm keeping it true. If you rocking with the journey, then I'm rocking with you. Came up from the days when they said I wouldn't last. Now I'm out here dropping stories, turning future from the past.